Hey everyone, I want to take a moment to explain this post-draft outline activity that we have scheduled due on Sunday. So let me just walk us through this. This should look familiar because we did this for Major Essay Project 1 when we were working on that all those weeks ago. So the post-draft outline, again, we're taking our draft, what we've created in draft form, and we're turning it into outline form so that we can better see what the structure is and to see if there are areas where we could better organize and figure out what our paragraphs are focusing on. So I'm going to highly recommend that you take another look at those few pages from Habits of the Creative Mind, pages 205 through 207, where Miller and Jurecic talk about the post-draft outline. Let me go ahead and read this section here. As Miller and Jurecic assert, often first and second drafts make sense to the writer, but the logic behind what has been written isn't yet clear enough for a reader to follow. This can be caused by gaps in the search or argument, lack of attention to what readers need to know and when they need to know it, too much information or too many ideas about one topic and not enough about another, or the lack of good transitions. These problems can be addressed through revision that focuses on structure. And so this is where this activity comes into play. These are the objectives that we are trying to accomplish with this activity. So we're trying to determine if the structure we created for this draft is the most effective way to organize. We're trying to determine if each of our paragraphs has a main focus and connects to the overall point of our essay. And we're trying to identify gaps in our logic, thinking, or exploration. So this is where this activity can help us achieve those objectives. So this is the activity. I broke it down into steps just as I did the last time we did it, but I want to just review it. So what we're doing is we're basing this off of what Miller and Jurecic are describing on pages 205 and through 207. So we're creating this post-draft outline, meaning after draft outline of draft 2 or our most recent draft. So you guys have already submitted draft 2, but maybe you were working on it more over the past few days. So whatever your most current version of your draft is, you'll want to complete this activity for that. So for each paragraph in your draft, you're going to determine what its main point or focus is. So remember that every paragraph should focus on one main point. Okay, so it should have a clear main idea that it's focusing on. After reading through the paragraph and determining its point, write it down on a sheet of paper. It doesn't need to be a complete sentence. It could just be a simple phrase or a half sentence, just something that will indicate to you what the point of that paragraph is. And you're going to do this for every paragraph that you have in your draft. So if you have 7 paragraphs, you'll do this 7 times, one for each paragraph. So something that's really important, this here, kind of the whole purpose of this activity, so we want to make sure that we're paying a close attention to this. We want to keep in mind that some of our paragraphs may not have a clear point. Sometimes when we're writing, we're just writing ideas down and we're not necessarily paying close attention to the structure or how we're organizing them, or if our paragraphs are indeed focusing on one idea. So it's important that we pay attention to that. So maybe it's vague, or maybe you have too many ideas packed into a single paragraph. If you come across a paragraph where you're having trouble determining its main point, don't make up a point, okay? So don't just fill one in just because you want to complete the outline. That, again, will defeat the whole purpose of the activity. So instead, we want to make a note on our draft that the paragraph needs more work. So you would just jot down in the margin, okay, pay attention to paragraph 4. There's too many ideas in there, or it's not a clear point. So maybe you need to expand the idea, so maybe it's just kind of vague and it needs more specificity. Maybe you need to split the ideas into separate paragraphs, so maybe you have 2, 3, even 4 kind of, maybe they're related points, but they're still separate ideas that could be better um, better situated in their own paragraphs. Maybe you need to move them to another section of your essay, so maybe where you have it in the draft isn't the most effective spot. Maybe it needs to go later or earlier in the draft. Or in some cases, maybe you just need to cut it out altogether. So that's not wasted work. I want you to keep that in mind. It's a part of the writing process. Writers get rid of stuff all the time. It's not wasted effort, it's all a part of it. So if there is an idea that when you were working on the draft you thought was relevant, but as you take another look at it, you're not so sure now. Don't feel bad about getting rid of it. So what you'll do is you're going to post your post draft outline to this discussion thread, and then I want you to respond to at least 2 of your colleagues. And something just so that everybody's getting attention to their posts, if a post has 2 replies already, find another colleague's post that doesn't have any replies yet. Again, just a way to kind of spread the attention out. So in your reply to your colleague, I want you to ask some questions that you have about one point in their outline. I'm sorry, about how one point in their outline leads into the next. Does this seem like a unified progression of ideas? So this is something that's important. Does it seem like one point logically connects to the next? Or do these points seem unrelated? So that's something to point out to them. If you see a gap between one point and another, you might just point that out so that they can pay attention to that as they continue to revise. So I have here the template. You can use this. I just have 13 just because. But you would do it, of course, to however many paragraphs you have so far in your draft. And then, yeah, so you'd post it to the discussion board and then reply to two colleagues. And that should satisfy that activity. So I'm going to go ahead and create another video where I walk you through some of the general feedback. So stay tuned for that. It's important that we pay attention to that too. So stay tuned.